All right, welcome everyone, and welcome Michael. Thanks for joining us. I'm really excited to see all of your faces today. When we started this in the beginning of the pandemic, I thought it was a wonderful opportunity for us to connect, being so distant from everyone and not seeing you for convocation, progress review meetings and different times coming up to see your students. It's been challenging, but definitely enjoy this time connecting together. And I'm really excited that we're able to have Dr. McMahon join us for today's meeting today. And just if you don't know about Dr. McMahon, he's the founder of CIP, who started the organization back in 1984. But before we go into it, I want to do a little icebreaker, because before Michael started this program, there wasn't really any post-secondary programs like this. A lot of students were hospitalized and they didn't really have this opportunity. So, talk about innovation and creating something that has never been done before. And it's, really remarkable how he kind of really changed the world in this way and supporting students and giving them opportunities. But if you're all on your computer, I invite you to open up a tab in Google. And I want you to type in your date of birth and just put invented. So if your date of birth is 1950 invented. And then it's going to give you a list of maybe 5 or 6 different things that were created during your special year of birth. And you can participate by just sharing it in the chat. So you can just copy and paste and put it in the chat. And I'll just go over and I just want to read those out loud. Kind of a fun way to get everyone connected around innovation. So for me, I did this yesterday. Nintendo NES. That was born on my special year. Tim Berners-Lee invented the World Wide Web. Cool Whip. That's pretty cool. Very cool, Paul. And if you prefer to just talk it out, you're welcome to, I invite you to do that as well. Disk drive, right? The first calculator. So that's before the, what's it, like the TI 87s, I think it's those. Gatorade. Steve, that's a real cool one. And we'll give about 30 more seconds, and then we'll transition into letting Michael take over. Fusion power plants, soft contact lenses, I'm sure. That was a huge change, going from the regular glasses. Elvis. The TI calculator. Great. Well, that was kind of fun. It's kind of interesting to kind of see what was invented in the timeline when different things were invented. But a little bit about Michael. So Michael started the program in 1984. He started it here in Lee, Massachusetts. And like I said before, there wasn't really anything like this out there. He created it, a psychologist by trade, and founded Lee. Thought Lee would be a really great place to give this opportunity for young adults to experience independence and kind of work towards their goals. Later in life, he actually was a late diagnosis with Asperger's. One of his staff, his academic coordinator, said, Michael, maybe you should take this test. And said, you probably have a lot of characteristics of someone with Asperger's, and then went on and got a formal diagnosis. And from that point on, he was able to really apply the curriculum on himself that he was doing on his students, and really kind of expanded this organization and opening programs all around the United States. I think now there's probably over 150 students, a couple hundred staff, and really has, as I forget his name, Michael, the golden star of post-secondary education for students, young adults with ASD. He's in Canada in Edmonton, and I forget his name. But Enough introducing Michael. So Michael has a unique perspective of our students, as he has an ASD diagnosis. And I was fortunate enough to work very closely with Michael before transitioning into this role, and I was able to see him speak at conferences and just experience and navigate the world, and looking at some of his challenges and come up with different strategies and then apply it to be very successful and to have fulfill his own life and his professional life. So today, Michael really likes to have a dialogue and have conversation. So this is going to be a kind of not really a lecture format, but more of a Q&A. He's going to be able to share a little bit about his story. And then it's going to be pretty interactive. So if you're able to, like Jenna said, if you're able to have your camera on, that would be helpful, because I know Michael really likes to see people. And then pass it over to Michael. I don't know.
Buenos dias todos. I'm here in Mexico, so I'm immersed, and we got the cold coming down here from all of you. Can you hear me? Just put your hand up. Okay, there you go. Great. So this is cutting in and out. I tried to get on my cell phone, and that was doing the same thing. So just be patient. If it goes out, it'll come back, but the way it is. So why would we be having a session on the power of knowing your diagnosis when your student is already diagnosed? What does that make any sense? Well, here's the problem, and I'll lay it out for you, and then we can talk about it. The problem is we get your students and they don't know anything about their diagnosis. They just know that they have this or that, Asperger's or autism or learning difference of some kind, and they don't know all the implications of it. They don't know what parts of it they have, so they haven't been assessed. They've been tested, but they haven't been assessed. They don't even know, in many cases, their learning style, whether they're a visual learner or an auditory learner or a combination or more tactile. And so this is a problem. So when they get to us, you've done a great job putting them through everything. You probably had 4 diagnoses at least, most of you, before you got to the one that's more accurate. And guess what? Use the reaction buttons. If I say something and you say, oh yeah, put your hand up or give me a thumbs up, and we're gonna work at try to as interactively as we can. And if you stop hearing me, tell me like that, so I know, okay, that I'm not talking to myself. And so Zoom, I noticed, as being a visual learner, that Zoom is great for me. I love it, because I can see your faces and I can see your reactions. And I feel more connected on Zoom than I do in person, where I can't see everyone in the room. And so it actually works the opposite for me. But okay, so why the power of knowing? What's the power of knowing your diagnosis, fully knowing your diagnosis? Well, the first stage, and you've gone through this. So first of all, most of you are parents, right? Put your hand up if you're a parent. Okay, so we got a lot of parents on here. So not both parents are always in tune with the diagnosis, right? It's usually the men that are out and not in reality about it, or don't want to accept the reality of it. And that's the problem. Not always, sometimes the mom. But so if you're in denial about the kid's diagnosis, what does that say to your student? Or if you don't fully understand the diagnosis and how it impacts your student, how does that, affect them? Because the worst thing, and our staff can tell you, our worst problem is when a student doesn't accept their diagnosis and doesn't embrace it. It's not like cancer. You're not trying to embrace your cancer. This is a learning difference for the most part with our students. They just think differently, they act differently, and they respond to the world differently, and they need different things. So I have 6 children, right? One who's adopted is over 50 years old, and I have 19 grandchildren. and some of them on the spectrum. And I had 8 brothers and sisters, and 4 or 5 of them on the spectrum. So I've seen this from all different directions. And with one of my youngest grandchildren, the father didn't want the daughter to be diagnosed because my youngest daughter's daughter, she was like 4 now. And we had to have a little family conference about it because he had been diagnosed ADD as a young kid and given a lot of drugs by his parents, and he had a horrible experience with it. So he was basically putting that on the kid. So now she's still nonverbal. My granddaughter at 4 years old, she's just starting to get language. And that's very typical of a lot of kids on the spectrum. And Einstein didn't talk till he was 5, right? So it's pretty normal behavior. And once they get it, they'll run with it. So the father, we had to sort of have a little family conference about this is not about labeling. This is not about that. Okay, so we'll do a little bit survey real quick. So use your reaction buttons. Are you ready? If I'm an hour earlier than you and I'm awake, so you should be awake by now. So use the reaction button. Put your hand up if these are true for you. I'm just going to make them up as we go. So do you think that you totally understand your child's diagnosis? Okay, no one has hand up. Well, one does, okay. And so that's, for me, I was only diagnosed about 15, 17 years ago. And so I'm still learning. And I've been in 2 relationships since that. It's not a positive thing for me, but that's the way it is. I have a hard time maintaining relationships. So I'm learning each week and each day about how to interact with you in the world to have more positive results for myself. And that's really what it's about. And so, the other question would be, so how many of you have a spouse that doesn't really think too much about the diagnosis and thinks it's not really accurate and they don't really care too much about it? Okay, so a few of you. And that's going to happen too. And so you're fighting like a double battle. And usually, and I'm just saying it, they have some of the diagnosis also. And they're very rigid about understanding it. And you might have a lot of the same qualities as your child who's diagnosed. So it makes it harder. And so I guess what I'm getting to is that working on ourselves is always the way out of this, right? Not the kid. And so the kid needs the help of all these people at CIP and you also. But how can you help your kid? What's the best way of helping your kid? If someone has the answer, put your hand up. Or part of the answer. You don't have to have the whole answer. Okay, no one wants to talk. So it's all right. Well, taking care of yourself first. So I was an overparent, and a lot of you may be in that category. And even though I had 6 kids, I was all over the place, coaching their teams, doing everything. And my kids didn't really, as I got older, they didn't want that. They wanted me to be happy and take care of myself. They didn't want a victim. They didn't want a sacrificial lamb. They wanted a dad who was happy. And once I moved down to Mexico and started separating myself a little bit emotionally in the right way and living my own life in a happy manner, they liked me better. So, and I also showed them how to let go, how to move on, how to start new things, be creative in my life. And so I've set the example for them to move on and stand on their own feet more. Okay, so when we go through these stages, we also go through them as well as a student. Some of your students have a diagnosis, they've accepted it on a certain level, but what's going to be the best thing is when they get to the other stages of really truly accepting your diagnosis. And then they can take action like I do to change it or to make it better or to live in the world even more fully. So self-awareness is the key. Then self-understanding, understanding the diagnosis and all the implications of it through all of the staff can help them with that. You know, the clinical part of it, the emotional part of it, the social part of it, the executive functioning part of it, the sensory part of it. Okay, so I'm going to make it a little more interactive. So I want people to, we can use the chat too. And so put down one characteristic that you have that you think is on the spectrum that your kid might have. One characteristic that you also have. Be honest. And if you don't have any of them, then that's remarkable.
So Michael, I can read them out for you.
Transition.
Oh, you got them? Okay, great.
Okay. Noise sensitivity. Hard to always pay attention. Honesty. Well, I don't know if that's on the spectrum, but that can be happening. Executive functioning. Isolation. Yes, these are all really poignant. Easily distracted. Distractibility. Okay, non-social. There you go. Non-social, twice distracted. Introversion. Okay, that's great. So, and so when you're working on that for yourself, that's the best way to help your student. You don't have to say to him, I'm doing this. You just do it. And he sees you. Normally, you're a person who won't go out and won't try something new, and you do it. That sends a huge signal. You know, it's like a shot across the bow. Okay, mom's moving on without me. Dad is starting something new. Dad is going to be creative in his life. Okay, or dad's not isolating. Dad's getting help, or dad's going for counseling, or all of these type of things are really important messages to send to your students. And so that's called self-advocacy. When you start realizing you all put those things down, right? There, I'm back again. Okay, got knocked off for like 2 seconds. So what are you doing about those? Just ask yourself that question. What are you doing about your areas that you need to remediate? You're never too old to do this. So for example, I'll give you some examples of my own life. I'm doing like 20 things every day to change myself. So I started painting with Nescafe coffee. The instant coffee, I started making paintings from it. It's great. I started it when I was in Egypt about a month ago for 3 weeks. I was in Airbnb doing all the protocols, didn't catch COVID. And I started using Nescafe coffee and black tea and started making paintings with it. I start in my house this morning. We have 6 chairs at our table. I sit at a different chair at the table every day when I have breakfast. So I'm looking in a different direction. Okay, I started using my left hand to eat breakfast a few months ago, just to start using that part of my brain. And I've gotten pretty good at it. Okay, I take different streets to go to places that I've gone to before. And I'm just giving you a little bit of the things that I'm doing. And so this is the kind of behavior that your student needs to adopt for himself. They need to adopt an attitude that they are going to be a self-change agent. And the way you can give an example for them, a strong example, is by doing it yourself. You know, that thing that you don't want to do it. And, you know, I'm putting my memoir out after 10 years of writing it. And I have a lot of Asperger's and other problems in my family and mental illness and alcoholism and everything. It's a very complex story. But I've been writing it for 10 years using 2 editors, and I finally have it done. And I'm doing the cover for it. And So I have to work and create the cover, and it's a very creative process. And I was dragging my rear end about it, and I said, do it. You're going to do it today, and you're going to get it out. And I did it yesterday. And we'll be keeping to work on it. So give me one example on the chat of something that you're doing in the last 6 months differently that can show your student that they can change. It can be anything. You're washing with a better soap, so your face is in better shape or whatever. Anything that you're doing. And Matt, you can read them out because I'm not going to look at the chat. You have to.
Okay. All right. I'll let you know. Learning to code. That's a good one.
I'm presuming that you're all on the spectrum. Just so you know, you didn't get a kid like this by accident. We say the Asperger's doesn't fall far from the tree, and so I know family, my father, when he retired, was like doing crazy stuff, like notes on every cabinet, organizing all the canned goods. In the bathroom, there were notes on the toilet. It was like, I came home and my mom was like, get him out of here.
We also have drawing, designing websites, using exercise more in more difficult fitness classes. That's great. Brushing our teeth with the opposite hand. Yana must have been talking with Michael earlier. They're on the same goals. Putting my phone down and away at a specific time each night. That is an important one. Exercising regularly. These are all great.
Yeah, nutrition, sleep, all of these things that can help your kid, because a lot of these kids, here's the problem, another problem for you guys, okay? Your kids in the program, when they get out of the program, how do you get them to do everything that they learn in the program? Because a lot of them go back to those things that you just talked about on the chat. Isolation, poor food habits, sleep, staying up too late and not being able to function very well, not reaching out and forming any friendships when they're on their own. They have instant friendships at CIP, but what happens to them when they leave? And I've seen some sad stories. I've a kid in Berkeley who, he would follow up for a couple of years, and I said to him, "What are you doing? Where are you working?" "Well, I'm working at this restaurant." And I said, "Are you, do you socializing with anyone?" "Well, not too much. I'm in my apartment." "And what do you do? What do you eat?" I noticed the kid was getting heavy. He looked really out of it. And I said, "Okay, this kid's not doing it. And what's going on here?" So I alerted the staff to it, what's happening here. So he's not socializing. He's eating poor, even at work, where he's at the restaurant. He wasn't taking the breaks. And you have to. The boss is not going to tell you, "Hey, you have to take a break." So if you don't take the breaks, it's nice for the boss, but what happens to the kid after a while? I said, "Can you go out to the park across the street and sit there for 15 minutes? Some air, just get some air and walk around." So all of those areas, social thinking, executive functioning, sensory integration, taking care of your food, your sleep, these are the things that we need to ingrain on your student. And your best way of doing it is not telling them anymore. Because guess what? What happens when you start to talk? Within 3 seconds, they flip it off. Maybe one parent has a little more access than the other. They're not listening to you. It's the same crap they've heard for 20 years. They're not listening. So you're wasting your breath. Say it to yourself instead, and you're going to get further. Say it to your other kid, but it's not going to work. So that's why CIP is so effective, because they have 20 different staff and different ages and levels and sexes and everything talking to them. And so it gets through that, over the wall, through the radar, quicker than you can anymore. And that's just a fact. I've seen my kids go to school, high school, and they'll come back and say, Mr. Jones told me this. And I've been telling this kid this for 20 years or 10, 15 years, and they don't listen to me. And then Mr. Jones told me this, and now they're doing it. And I said, oh, what the hell? But anyway, let's go back to it. So we're going to try to finish up here. So after they start to self-advocate, then they can self-disclose in the right places when they need to. I'm just like open book. I disclose my whole life to everyone, which is not good, but I do it. I'm like an open book, and it's part of I can't stop talking because as a kid, I didn't talk. I never asked questions in high school or grade school, never put my hand up voluntarily, and was shut up. My father just shut us all up, shut up. And so I didn't talk. And so I've been making up for it. And then you get to the point where you're self-determination. That's where we want them to be, right? You don't want them home on your couch. You want them to be productive, happy, and hopefully in a relationship if they can be or want to be. And you want them out in the world and then visiting you happily and you visiting them. How do you get there? It's a process. And some of you are going to go a long time before you get there because it's going to be slow. Like it's taken me, I got this executive functioning, I got the job part. I didn't look like I had a disability, and I got by pretty good. But I was hampered. I was shooting myself in my own foot all the time. My business didn't grow. My children, didn't like certain behavior from me, especially during holidays and birthdays. And I would have meltdowns and be like a crazy person. And I didn't understand it. I just thought, okay, this is the way it is. Until I got diagnosed. Then I said, okay, now I have the tools. So the tools are what the staff are going to try to give your student. And you can read these books as well. The toolkit that we have, which has a chapter on diagnosis. And the other first book, this one, You're Made for Good Purpose. That one has the power of knowing in it. So you can look at those and read them yourself, because whatever you can do, I want to emphasize this for the fourth time, I guess. I think it's the fourth time. Whatever you do with yourself is more important than what you're doing with your kid at this age. What you did in high school and grade school was great, and you went the distance and you put yourself out there. You had to do it, and you had to find the right services and do it all. It's anti-productive after this for you to do that. They have to stand on their feet. You can't be calling them and getting them out of bed in the morning. I mean, hopefully you're not doing that. We had a parent from California getting up at like 3 a.m. to call or 4 a.m. to call their kid at the Berkshire Center to get them up. It's ridiculous when you think about it, but you do that stuff. Admit it. You do some of this stuff and you know it. Do you want to be financially dependent with this kid your whole life? I just cut off my last child, finally standing on her, my youngest one, who I had a financially dependent relationship with her, and she's standing on her own 2 feet. Thank hallelujah. And she was at 30 something. So there you go. And so you have to have whatever you do with yourself is going to determine a better outcome. You have to believe that. You set the example of all these behaviors that you want to see change in your student. That's all you have to do. And then help them when you have to, and as little as you need to. As little as you need to, even though they might go through discomfort, it's necessary. And they need, in the staff's role, in Jenna's role, in Matt's role, and all of their roles, are to really get in there and help the student discover all of the ways that they can help themselves. Because we want to teach them to fish, not give them fish anymore. And this has been from the beginning, the inception of CIP, is let them stand on their own 2 feet and help them, support them, give them encouragement, but don't do it for them. One year, one of the staff at CIP was getting the award for Staff of the Year. And I said, why are you getting it? He was the medication coordinator. And And I was concerned that he was doing all the medications for the students. So I started asking him, how do you operate it? And this is like, I'm not even part of the business. What are you doing? And he says, no, they call the pharmacy themselves. They go there, they get it. They do their Mediset, they keep their medication, everything. And I said, well, wow, that's great. That's the way it needs to be done. Don't do it for them. And so if you have other children at home, younger, this can help your other kids right now. Stop doing it for them. Start making them do it all for themselves as much as possible. And I guess I'm going to end my comments there. I'm going a little bit off the rails here, but that's what happens when I talk. You get a lot of stuff, but it's not necessarily on the topic. But so we can go with questions now, and that might be a better way of doing it. Matt, you can just pick out the questions and shoot them.
Yeah, so you can, if you have a question, you can either use the hand feature, raise your hand, or it is a small group. There's only 19 of us, so you can unmute yourself and just introduce yourself. So if you can just say your name, where you're from, and just maybe your student's name before you ask the question, just to connect it a little bit more. For Michael, that'd be great.
All right.
Hey, go ahead, Rachel.
Is it Rachel and then Nanat? And then Linda?
No, go ahead, Nanat.
Okay.
Not then Paul.
Oh, great. Okay. Hi, Michael. Yeah, my name is Nanat. I'm in New York. You know, I love Mexico, actually. So I'm a little jealous that you're in Mexico. Yeah, my daughter's, her name is Nicole. And I guess my question really is, you know, what, you know, as you look for, you know, transitioning from CIP towards, you know, adulthood and independence, what, you know, is there one thing that you could recommend? And I hear you about, you know, cutting ties and letting them sort of fly to the nest themselves. But, you know, is there anything that you could recommend us doing, you know, as they head off into their own independence and adulthood?
Well, what comes to mind right off the top is if your kid is going to isolate, you know, and any of you watched the Flintstones way back then? Well, you know how they let the dog out the front door and it goes back in the window? Well, that's what they're going to do. And so I would get her a social mentor. If she's on her own, hire a PhD candidate or a master's candidate in some social service area or whatever, or someone in her special interest area. And it's like a paid friendship, but it works. And it's ridiculous. I mean, it's ridiculous not to do it. If let's say she's transitioning from CIP to a 4-year college, set up some services like this, maybe a guy who knows about your daughter's learning difference, or a woman, if she prefers a woman, and then a social mentor, ask her what kind of person she wants for a social mentor. Someone who's into computers, or someone who's young, someone who's a girl, someone who's a guy. And that's a really good way of transitioning. And all those areas, sensory integration, maybe she needs to be, you know, in some kind of aerobics class or something that can help stimulate her. Find out the way she wants to exercise. People just want to walk. Some people like bicycling, and find a way that she can do that. Because all of these things, it's an emotional balance. If I'm out of control, those meltdowns I described at Christmas, birthdays, and everything happened because I just focused on my special interests, which was my family and other things, and didn't take care of myself. Didn't watch what I was eating over the holidays, didn't exercise, didn't sort of go off by myself for a while and get out of the group and take a mental break for myself. So these are all strategies, but I would just say a social mentor comes to mind right away. Okay, next question. And I love your name, by the way. It's cool.
Great, thank you, thank you.
Was Paul next? Is that who you said, Matt?
Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, hi, Paul Davis. My daughter's Alexis at CIP in Berkshire, and it's not a question so much as maybe a request. And at the risk of offending I feel like I need to say it. I'd like to see more bravery with regards to COVID. I think having the kids feel like the danger is deadly and that they have to wear masks constantly is a disservice. I think it harms not only them, especially them, given their social issues. It's very important to see people's faces, see them smile. And given their demographics, the risks are so low. I think you do more harm at this stage by making them feel like they have to hide in and shelter in place with masks. And so you don't have to answer. You don't need to come up with a response to this. I just wanted to say I'd like to see someone stamp forward with some bravery and say we're going to go forward with our lives, and we're going to make this work without feeling like we got to hide in our apartments.
Yeah, I understand that. As someone who just was in Egypt for 3 weeks, how did I do that? Well, double masking to go there. Once I got there, I stayed the hell away from everyone, and had an individual driver or a van, or open the windows, put the air conditioning on. I mean, there are ways of doing it. So maybe putting a fan on in a conference room and opening a window and putting students separating enough where they don't need to wear a mask. I can understand that. And I think we're starting to come out of it, thank God. So that's a great comment, thank you. And we'll go on to the next one.
Linda, over in.
Hi.
Go ahead, Linda.
Good morning. I'm Linda Glenham. My son D is still participating virtually. So earlier you were saying, Michael, that we shouldn't be waking them up. That's one thing I could say I've been guilty of is he sets his alarm, they start going off at 7 o'clock and they continue on for hours. So usually within a half an hour of his first class, I do go in and wake him up, spur him to get up. The other things are reminding him to do his chores around the house. And my understanding as to what you're saying is I should not be doing any of those things.
Well, I mean, you can just write it all down on a schedule. And maybe he needs a visual cue. And then do you have anyone else, a husband, that can do some of this?
Yes, he's here.
Okay, so maybe you give him some responsibility with this too, Well,
the question is you were saying, stop doing it.
Well,
put it all back on them so they learn the consequences. But so I'm kind of confused. You want to help support them.
Yeah, I understand. You're at home, and that's the problem with a 18, 19, 20-year-old. And it's pretty normal for any college student being at home to fall back into that. So it makes it difficult for you. And I understand that. But maybe visual cues, maybe double alarms, one that had the alarm clocks in the bathroom, and maybe a louder one. You can try to do what I would just brainstorm, maybe with staff or someone else about 5 or 6 different other things you can do. Maybe, like I said, writing things out, putting a note on his bathroom, on his bathroom mirror. We do all kinds of techniques like this with students, trying not to call them, but if we have to, we do. If they miss class, you can't just have them miss class all the time. So, but we try to wean ourselves off it, and that's the problem. It's a double problem because you're home and he's isolated there with you. So I would just maybe brainstorm with your advisor about, and other people at CIP about maybe 4 or 5, 6 different things you could do. Sit down with them, ask him what works for him, maybe, which he's going to tell you nothing, but probably, but whatever. And ask your husband to help. You know what I mean? Maybe you have to have a chat, the three of you, you know, because we're going to live in this house through COVID. Let's get some ground rules here, because you're going to drive me crazy if I have to do this stuff that I had to do in high school with you. So maybe you
Well,
need,
it's not that it drives me crazy. Well, the alarm's continuously going off.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
But from what you said earlier, you were saying they don't listen to you anyways. And, you know, I can ask them to dump the trash or, you know, put the dishes away, and you may get to it the next day.
Maybe a social mentor
But
in your house, you know.
pardon me?
Maybe a
You
social
kind of
mentor,
broke up.
maybe a social mentor coming in your house with a mask.
Yeah. You know, we're looking at him going back in May, but, you know, I just wanted to make sure, you know, from what you said earlier, should I just stop and let him, you know, my husband likes to say a lot of times, he's an adult now, you know, but I also don't want him to fail in what we're trying to do with CIP in his classes. So
This is the issue with almost all the parents, right? You don't want to have them fail, so you end up doing it. How do you break that dependence on you, financially, socially, every other way? You know, if you're still setting up social events for them and stuff. So this is the problem, and I can't answer it totally on here, but it's going to be a process for sure. So
yeah.
I mean, I'm a pretty free thinker. I could probably come up with 20 things, you know, that you could try, but I'm sure the staff and Jenna and other people can give you some ideas about some different things to try, and then you're going to be frustrated. So just accept the fact that you're going to be frustrated and then proceed.
Yeah.
Michael, one of the things that you said in the beginning I thought was super important is having the student be a part of that conversation. And how it's helped them be help them problem solve and help them be their own investigator. So, you know, is it the morning routine, or do you need a backwards plan? Is there other things going on that is making it more challenging for them to initiate that morning routine? So if you have A, B, and C happening, there's no way that you're going to be successful at waking up at 7 a.m.
Well, you know, there's several, this is sort of prompting something here. You could get on the student's clinical call with him, if you let the clinician know, and say, talk about your feelings on it, how it makes you feel, feeling like, gosh, I'm not ever going to be independent. It worries me. It frustrated his arm. And you can let it out that way, in a nice way, on a clinical call, to the certain, you know, getting on is that you're in. Then you can get also on the advisor call maybe once and just say, let's talk it through what you're going to do, because I'm frustrated. I see you failing. I don't want to be part of this. They're telling me to let go, but you're just going to not do it. And then what's going to happen? So you need to talk it through, and, you know, it takes time. Some of these kids get it first semester. Some of them get it second year, some of them after the program. And that's the reality of it.
Can I add one thing to that, Michael? I think also setting the expectation and not being afraid to say what you need to say sometimes provides the incentive to start the problem solving. Some of our parents lately have said, you may be on the street next year, and that sounds extreme, but you would be might be surprised to hear how that fueled the problem solving process, and you don't have to be even as dramatic as that, but saying something like, I'm not going to be doing these things starting a week from now, which means these may be the natural consequences that follow if we can't work right now to figure out what works for you to get to brush your teeth or to pick up the dishes, whatever it is. But sometimes our students need to hear it in such a concrete and straightforward way.
Well, I wouldn't recommend saying that statement myself, but I would say that something like it, but not, you know, you're gonna be on the street, but we do say to students, hey, what's gonna happen next year when you're on your own? When you're in your own apartment, if you don't know how to call the landlord to change a light bulb in the hallway, you know, what do. So practical, but another idea for you.
Joyce, go ahead, Joyce.
Yeah.
Do other things, simply do other things like make him responsible for making dinner one night a week. Make him responsible for making one lunch. Make him responsible and make him responsible for shopping for it. And then get those things there, and you can help him a little bit or prompt him or make a list for him. This is how you do it. And show him and then leave, go out and come back. You can make them responsible in those areas by making them responsible in other areas too. So expand responsibility, expand it. Okay, next question.
And I know we've gone over, but Michael, if you're able to stay to maybe till 5 of, I know Joyce has one more question. And this is being recorded, so if any of you have to jump off, it's completely fine, but we can stay on for a few more minutes if you have a couple more questions. But Joyce, go ahead.
I don't have a question. I'm Nanat's partner. We have been working tirelessly, I have to say, with Nanat's 18-year-old son and I'm addressing the Zoom, the remote issue and the being part of a household issue and all that. And what we found is we were getting very punishment-based. If you don't do this, this will happen. You will lose your electronics. You will this. And after a little crisis that he had, we did a total redo with him and a therapist that we're all working together with. And the attitude now is we are all sitting down because we love you and we care about you. And we want you to be an independent person. We want you not to have the stress pile up in your head, which was most of the problem, because, he has a sort of a chaotic brain. It's like, I need to do this. And I just like probably most of us. So we found that, and we did this before, we have a chart of ADLs and home-based chores. And, we had the whole waking up problem. So we started out waking him up and we're weaning him because we're being very supportive now. We're not saying you're on your own. So it's a very supportive, we're all doing this together thing. And now he is starting to, your alarm goes off, you get up. Not relying on us. And we have ADL charts, which include exercise. We have all his homework on another chart, and he religiously checks everything off: the litter, the dishes, brush your teeth. Well, that's first. Make your bed, all of that every day. And he's feeling accomplished and calm. So I'm just recommending kind of to cut it, start again. This isn't working, big guy, and let's do it a different way.
That's our process at CIP. That's our process at CIP. We have to continue to start over. Our process at CIP. We have to continue to start over with a student. When we reach a ground point where they fall apart, we just start over and we talk about what else can we do, what's something different we can do it's going to be that way because I'm a slow learner. I'm learning this stuff now. I'm 71 and I still have to go to school for this. And you know what? But I'm going to end up with this and just say it's not Pollyannish. Just find the good things that they're doing and say it and build upon it, because these kids feel they punish themselves more than you punish them in your brains. They feel inadequate, they can't do it, and your strategy that you came in, and started over is a good thing. You have to do it every week. That's what that's a message for you. There, uh, every day, and I need to think positive, and it's not just a you have to do it. So take the positive out of what's going on and build upon it. It's one step at a time. We're unique learners, and like you said, get on their side. You know, they have enough problems without feeling firm, but loving at the same time. It's really important that they need that much. And if you can't do it, someone else can. A mentor, a therapist, advisor. You need people on their side, and they'll get through. And hope world, and and so continue on and fight the battle. Like I encourage you. I'm really nice to talk to you today and with you, and I look forward to meeting you some point. And this might be in Berkshire.
Yeah, thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you taking the time and connecting with our families. You're you have so much wealth of information, and it's really great to hear your stories and making it real. And you're definitely a straight shooter, and definitely appreciate that. So thank you for that. If any family has any questions in the near future, would you like them to email Jenna or myself, or email you directly? How would you like to? If anyone has any follow-up questions.
Well, why don't you just pass them on to me? That'd be fine.
Okay.
I just want to say my nephew went there for 3 years to CIP in Indiana, and he is doing phenomenally well.
I didn't know that, Joyce.
Yeah, that's how we just found out about this.
I've forgotten
What
that.
was his name?
Nathan Goldsmith in Indiana. And also my mother sponsored dancing lessons.
Yeah.
You remember dancing lessons at the Playhouse in Pittsfield?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That was,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I'm the first one in dances because I figure like students aren't going to do it. So I just do it and then they do it.
Yeah.
Okay, take care, everyone. Nice talking.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.